Hey, welcome back for another episode of Golden Nuggets. I was looking at my LinkedIn feed the other day, and I ran across this article from a magazine called New Atlas, and it's talking about GPT-4. So it's the next iteration of the LLM GPTs that are out there. And what this group of researchers at University of Illinois had come up with is that this agent that they created out of a GPT-4 version can autonomously hack zero-day security flaws with a 53% success rate. So we're going to link the article here so you can take a look at it. But this is kind of when you think about vulnerability management, this is your worst nightmare starting to happen here. And the fact that in the old days, if Microsoft came out with a patch, you had months to apply this patch, so you could test it. You could have different teams in your organization try it out, make sure it didn't affect applications adversely, or it didn't break some old machine in your environment. But you had time. The announcement would come out that there was a vulnerability, and then there was a period of time that patches would come out, and then you had some amount of time to apply the patches. So there was some breathing room there. Now that you see artificial intelligence and these large language module or LLMs coming out, you start to see that window of opportunity shrinking. So at the point in time where a vulnerability is announced by a software company to the point where you have to get that thing patched went from months to weeks to days, and now it's almost becoming hours. Because what they're doing here with these researchers these are 0 days. So these are vulnerabilities that haven't even been publicly disclosed yet, and they have developed basically a network of agents. So there's like a scheduler agent and then these subordinate agents, and they push these things out, and it's finding vulnerabilities that are in the software but haven't been disclosed yet. And in that article, there's a discussion about a previous article that these same researchers had published, and this was just published in April. So they're pretty prolific in that they're putting a lot of stuff out there, these researchers. So I downloaded this report for the previous one, and what they were talking about in that report was that they created these agents, again, based on LLMs, and then they put some tools in there, and they built these little agents, and they could point them to specific vulnerabilities that had CVEs published. So they were looking for these common vulnerabilities and exposures in the database. Then they put a prompt in to the agent that says, hey, go exploit this vulnerability and keep trying until you can do it. And then they would feed in the CVE. And they found that with feeding the agent the CVE, this LLM agent could exploit that vulnerability. And they also found that even if they didn't feed the CVE, it could still sometimes exploit the vulnerability. So with the CVE data, 87% of the time, this autonomous agent could exploit the vulnerability and get into that system. Without the CVE, it was at 7%. So, 7% sounds low, but 7% is still 7 out of 100 times this artificial intelligence, or however you want to call it, it could actually exploit a vulnerability that is out there in the world. 87% is crazy, just by feeding it the CVE and then letting it loose. So, this has got to cause some very serious concerns to corporate defenders or anyone else that is kind of managing networks and trying to track vulnerabilities and exploitation down, because by the time you read it in your news feed, or by the time you get the notification from your software vendor that there's this vulnerability in the software you're running, it could already be getting exploited just by the fact that it's now not human researchers and human adversaries trying to figure this stuff out. It's automated attacks that are just using what's already available in the public space and able to exploit those vulnerabilities. So the reason this is important, and I'll kind of wrap it up at that, we'll give you the resources, you can go look at it, but from a vulnerability management standpoint, there is still this kind of reluctance to push the patches out or the updates out until they're fully tested, or until someone can get around to it. And generally things are now on like 30, 60, 90-day cycles. So 30 days for criticals, 60 days for high risk vulnerabilities, and 90 days maybe for mediums or everything else. But so we've ingrained this mindset in that we have weeks or months to solve these problems. Well, what these researchers are finding, and it won't be long before the adversaries start to pick this up, is these things can be exploited the next day. So their first report was talking about how quickly they can exploit a vulnerability that has been published basically yesterday. Even though it might not have a patch out, the CVE gives them enough information to exploit that vulnerability. The new report that comes out says there's a 53% chance that they can exploit a 0-day, meaning there isn't even a patch that's out there, and the visibility in the public sphere is even lower. So if you're responsible for defending corporate networks, you got to rethink the way that you are timing out your remediation processes, because that time is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and you're going to have to squeeze as much efficiency out of your processes as possible to start to map up to what's coming down the pike here as these automated attacks start to happen. So that's all I have to say about that. So if you are interested in artificial intelligence and how that can impact information security, we do have a more in-depth webinar coming up soon. The link will be down below. You can go there, register, and we're going to talk in depth about how artificial intelligence is impacting the information security or cybersecurity industry. And I think it's going to be a great conversation. I'd like to see you there. So sign up. And with that, thanks for tuning in this time. Catch us the next time. And in the meantime, stay safe out there. Thank you.